Hello, my name is Steve Gearhart and this is the Unagi Observer. Thank you very much for stopping by and watching today's video. Before I start, I want to send out a special shout out to everybody who had a kind word and sent me an email, message, or whatever. And, well, my mom passed away and your kind words really did help a lot. So I just want to let you guys know that and thank you, and you are all awesome. So let's go on to the video. Being a samurai is like any other profession. In that profession, you have different rankings. You start at the bottom and you work your way up. Now, obviously, in some jobs, in some ways, nepotism takes effect. Being a samurai is no different. Sometimes you're born into a samurai family, and depending upon who your father or your great-grandfather was, that could determine where you started off in the rankings, because it is somewhat hereditary. It can be hereditary. Not all the time, but it can be. And so a samurai family, if you're born into one, then you're almost guaranteed a job of some sort. Now, if you're a really low-level samurai, what that means is that you are put on retainer for your lord. So you're actually being paid to be unemployed. You're paid to do nothing, but it's a stipend, and you only get paid twice a year. Once during winter, which is actually when you get most of your stipend so that you can live through the winter, and then the smaller portion of your stipend happens in the spring. And basically all that means is that the local lord has you on retainer so that when battle comes or he needs you or whatever he needs, even if it's just to be an errand boy, he can call on you and you have to show up. So there's that. And then, of course, there's the really top of the samurai. And top of the samurai can be being a general or having a lot of land that produces a lot of rice. That's actually very important. So if you're at that level, you can also become a lord, a high-ranking clan lord or a daimyo or even the emperor himself can say, hey, you did a great job. Here's your nobility. Thank you very much. So you can be both a nobleman and a samurai. Very rare, but it does happen. So how does a samurai, if you were a samurai, how do you progress in your ranks? How do you get promoted? Well, like I said, nepotism is part of it. You know, it's kind of who you know and how well you do your job, and that can get you pretty far. And if you're an excellent swordsman, if you're a well-renowned samurai known for across the region, then your fame can actually help you. That is, if you don't get killed first by a bunch of people who are coming out to kill you so that they can improve their own station. And that's actually the best way for a samurai to increase in his rank. And that has to do with battle and with, and this is how samurais get ahead, bad pun, they become headhunters. Okay? So during a battle, they become headhunters. Now, what that means is that when you have a battle, you have your foot soldiers, you have your low-level peasants who just are given basically spears and told to be stabbing at the other guy. And really they don't, that's all they do. Now, the samurai are not worried about the foot soldiers. They're not out to get the foot soldiers. Cutting their heads off means nothing. They're foot soldiers. They're poorly trained. They're trying to go after people of nobility, or sometimes even better, well-renowned samurai if they know that that person is on the other side. So part of what a samurai has to do is get through the big part of the battle where everyone's stabbing each other so that they can have basically a duel within the battle with another samurai. If they are victorious, what they do is they chop off the head. And they keep the head in a sack. Now, depending upon how good you are, you might have assistants. These are guys who check your back, who check your six, who make sure no one's coming up behind you. That's job number one. And job number two is that if you are successful, but the battle is raging around you and you don't really have time to pick up the head or chop somebody's head off, the assistant does it for you and keeps track of it for you. Now, you ever noticed in anime and some samurai movies where the two samurai face off and they introduce each other? They introduce each other and they maybe give them where they're from, or maybe some type of status that they give to the other samurai. There is a reason for that, and that did actually happen most of the time. Not all the time, most of the time, depending on how hot the battle was. And what that meant was that so that if one samurai was victorious over the other, they would know who that samurai was. So when they took the head for later presentation to the general or lord, actually most likely the lord, they would be able to recount who this person was that they killed in a duel, in a samurai duel. And that's very important because if the person you killed was low level, the lord might just be like, oh, okay, good for you. Pat you on the head and maybe give you a nice write-up or whatever. If the samurai happens to be someone higher in stature than you are or is more renowned than you are, then that's a big deal. And the lord will go, wow, you really did something here. So your stipend might increase, or your pension might increase, or better yet, you'll get more land or get land to begin with. And getting land is important because your land has to be able to produce rice. Japan's economy at that time was based on the production of rice. That was how the value was determined economically. And depending upon how many koku or barrels of rice that your land would make would determine how many ryus, or the currency, you would get. So if you're a really successful samurai, you may have a lot of land, which makes a lot of rice, which makes you very rich. So that is the primary way to get ahead. Okay, this time I really didn't mean the pun. As a samurai. So what happens, what do you do with the head? Okay, well, here's what happens. You take the head, obviously it's bloody because you chop the guy's head off and it's all messed up because, you're grabbing him by the hair, carrying it around, or you're throwing him in a sack and he just happens to be rolling around with other heads in there. And the battle is won, you go back and you want to make a presentation. So there are women who are specially trained, almost like morticians, where they will take the head, they will comb it, they will style the hair as if the guy was still alive, looking like a samurai, hairdo, and maybe put a little bit of makeup, make it look a little bit more lifelike. And they would take, I forget what the name of the root, but a root that would blacken the teeth, because black teeth apparently at some point meant nobility. So they would take care of the head, and then they would take the head and they would go to a board that had a spike in it, and they would just put the head on the spike, and then they would have a stiff piece of paper that would be attached to the head somehow, naming who the samurai was, where he was from, if he was renowned, basically who he was. So the more heads that you had, the more planks of wood that you had with heads on it, usually 3 to a plank. And these would be presented in a ceremony after the battle to your commanding general or to the lord who is over your commanding general. And you would present these things and they would look at it and go, wow, this guy was important. You killed this guy? Wow, that's really impressive. 10 acres of land for you. You get rich. So, if you were a samurai back in the day, that's how you got promoted. Who knew? All you had to do was be a headhunter. Okay, so I hope you found that morbid piece of information interesting. And if it was interesting to you and you like this video, please go down and hit the like button. Down, up, wherever it is. And if you like what I do here, if you've seen a couple other videos, then please subscribe. I'm trying to get up to 200 now, and we'll figure out what I'm going to do when we hit 200, but I would love it anyway if you subscribe to my channel. That would be awesome. That would just be so great. Anyway, again, my name is Steve Gerhardt. This is the Unagi Observer, and thank you very much for watching, and you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next time.